Ramaya Ramabhadraya Ramachandraya Vedase Raghunathaya Nathaya Sitaya Pate Namaha. Ayodhya chapter number 34. Father, give me leave to go. The recitation begins now. The eternal and changeless one came down in mortal guise, strangely beautiful even as a rain-charged cloud, laid his commands upon Sumantra. He roused himself with a strong effort and sought the king in his harem. Dasaratha, in relentless grip of mighty grief, was sighing hot and furiously with a bleeding heart and a confused brain. His thoughts ever ran upon Rama. Sumantra had few equals in tact, intelligence, adaptability, or keen perception, but the calamity that fell upon Rama prostrated him quite. With senses adrift, he clasped his hands in loyal devotion and exclaimed, "Hail, all hail to your majesty!" But a thought, who knows what the king might say or do in the madness of his sorrow, kept him back. After a long pause, he ventured in broken accents to say, "Lord, Rama, the darling of your heart, stands outside and craves leave to wait upon your majesty. The paragon of every virtue, human and divine, has bestowed his vast wealth on the Brahmanas and his dependents. He has bade adieu to his weeping friends and prays to see you before he starts to the forest. I pray you admit him to your presence." The hero, crowned with each princely virtue, even as the noonday sun, girt with blazing rays, means to seek the wilds. It behooves you to see him first. Dasaratha was by very nature the soul of Dharma. No one fathomed the depths of his heart, profound as the shoreless ocean, stainless as the sky that pervades all, pure and impure. He appeared to be immersed in the joys and sorrows of the world, was in reality supremely unattached and dispassionate. His duty at the moment lay in keeping his promise to Kaikeyi, and he called out to Sumantra and said, "Go, bid my wives here to come to me on the wings of speed. With them I would even behold the face of my darling, whose heart is ever loyal to Dharma." Sumantra sped to the inner rooms and said to the wives of the king, "His Majesty commands your immediate presence before him." And the 350 wives of King Dasaratha, preceded by Kaushalya, wended their sorrowful way to their husband's presence with worn faces and lackluster eyes. Dasaratha saw them approach and bade Sumantra to bring him his son. Rama, Sita and Lakshmana were accordingly led into the presence of the monarch. The king saw his darling child approach him with folded palms and bowed head of reverence when yet far off, and sprang to clasp him in his arms. His wife ran after him with hollow looks of grief. The cruel tears blinded his eyes, and the unhappy father could not see his way to where his son stood, but fell on the ground and fainted a few paces off. But quicker than thought, Rama and Lakshmana caught him in their strong arms. The royal ladies were sore affrighted at the sight of their senseless lord and wailed, "Ah, alas!" They beat their heads and breasts in a transport of grief. Their wild laments made discordant music and hateful, blended with the melodious tinkling of their ornaments. Rama, Lakshmana, and Sita gently bore the king to his bed and did everything in their power to bring him back to his senses. Restored to life and feeling after a while, the unfortunate monarch, battling in despair with the mighty waves of grief that threatened to overwhelm him, observed Rama standing before him with reverently folded palms. Then the prince addressed himself to the mighty ruler of Koshala and said, "Your Majesty is our Lord, our God. I start for Dandaka even now and crave leave of you and your powerful blessings. I tried my best to dissuade Sita and Lakshmana from following me to the woods. My truthful pleas were of no avail, and they are obstinately bent upon seeking the forest depths with me. I pray you cast the sorrow away from your heart and give me leave to go." Then Dasaratha lifted his eyes of shame to the bright and cheerful face of Rama, who eagerly sought leave of him to speed to the dreary forest, and said in faltering accents, Rama, I granted in an evil moment some boons to Kaikeyi and have been grievously duped in return. All my acts are unjust and unreasonable. I am no more master of myself. Set me aside and rule over this Ayodhya in my place. With profound thoughts and deep motives lay back of this apparent incoherent wail of Dasaratha of profound intellect. But Rama stood peerless in his knowledge and practice of the innermost mysteries of Dharma. Would he fail? Would he be prey to lure and delusion? He clasped his hands in low reverence and replied, Lord, may you live long and reign over this happy earth for thousands of years. I go to reside in the woods. It shall never be said that you fell away from truth for the sake of my unworthy self. 9 years, then 5, will pass away in the twinkling of an eye, a happy trip. My word kept, I hope to be blessed enough to lay my head at your feet and serve you ever. Bound by the mighty, the invisible chains of Dharma in the guise of his plighted word, goaded without rest by the tireless Kaikeyi who ever hissed into his ear, this day Rama shall sleep in the woods, he shall not lay his head in the haunts of men. And struck to his heart, past bearing with grief of parting from his darling child, dearer to him than his life itself, he cried with streaming eyes and broken accents, Rama, go if you will. May you win hereby the highest good and happiness in this world and the next. May every good walk before you during your stay in the woods. May no harm come to you, nor fear from the beasts, the birds, and the insects of the forests. So go in peace and safety and come back to me in a trice. Your righteous soul never knows what it is to prove disloyal to truth. Your heart is ever centered in the practice of the highest Dharma. And would anyone seek to shake your resolve, deliberately or consciously made? But I will not hear of your leaving us tonight, nay, not in the least. Spend the night with us. Bless our aged eyes with the sight of your bright and lovely self. Let every comfort and luxury be yours, and may you take your departure, if you must, by the break of day. Let us at least have this pleasure of being with you, be it for just one short night. Oh, my darling, my hair stands on end with amaze and fear when I contemplate from any standpoint the course of action that you have sternly chosen to adopt. You had the heart and courage to put away from you every comfort and luxury in life that is yours by right, and had dared to betake yourself to the howling wilderness untrod by man. I swear most solemnly upon truth that this is not of my doing. My heart countenances not this act of cruelty and shame. Cast your eyes on this Kaikeyi that stands at my elbow like the smoldering fire under its white robe of ashes. Her brain can hatch schemes and plots of diabolical cruelty. Her heart knows not the virtue or compassion. She has basely taken advantage of the boons I granted her of yore. She has played upon my loyalty to truth and my infatuation for her to wring my reluctant consent to this act of shame. She came among us to foul the fair name of our race and uproot the righteous traditions of our forefathers. The boons she has cozened out of me have been her weapons to seat her Bharata on the throne and send you to the dreary woods. You would even obey to the utmost the unholy commands of this wretch. Ah, the magnanimity of soul! What unapproachable nobility of heart! Nay, I am denied even the pleasure of thinking so. You are my firstborn, and your hand should lead me across the dark realms of death to the bright worlds of light. On you rests the heavy responsibility. It is no wonder that you should see to it that your father breaks not his plighted word, does not stain his soul with a lie, and no one has a stronger claim to it than you. Rama and Lakshmana heard their sire entreat them in heart-rending accents to stay there for a night at least. They grieved unspeakably to think that they were not fortunate enough to rejoice in the company of their parents yet one more night. Then Rama replied to Dasaratha and said, Lord, if I indulge myself this night here in comfort and luxury, pleasure and pomp, where shall I look for them tomorrow in the woods? I prefer to depart to the woods to taste the sweets of royalty for a few hours. Here do I renounce this broad earth, the countries on it, and the people, corn and wealth. Give it all to Bharata. I have made up my mind to abide in the woods, and my resolve is unshaken. You are known all over the world as one whom none seeks in vain. Pleased with Kaikeyi, and rightly so, you have granted her some boons. Keep them to the very letter. Let your fair fame be undimmed that your word has ever well kept. I will reside for 10 years and 4 among the hermits, trying to fulfill your promise to Kaikeyi. Woe is me that I should live to hear from your lips such cruel words as set me aside and rule in my place. What atrocious sin! This very moment Bharata should be invested with the lordship of this earth without the slightest delay or hesitation. Never should your heart harbor the faintest suspicion of any desire on my part to rule over this kingdom, to taste its pleasures. Would I gain thereby the merit and the happiness that accrue of carrying out your majesty's behests? Why should you grieve at all? Why shed tears? The lord of the rivers, the ocean god, is he ever known to be disturbed or unsettled? This realm, its luxuries, this power, this pomp, do stink in my nostrils. I want them not. Nay, my Sita or the bright world of the gods or dear life itself have no charms for me. I am alive to one thing and one thing only. Your plighted word shall never go for naught. You are my Lord, my living God. I swear before you on the merit I have laid up till now, on the truth that I speak. It is not in me to stay here a moment more than is absolutely necessary. It is not seemly that you should grieve over this. My resolve to live in the woods is unshaken. Besides, I go to the woods not solely to carry out your commands. Have I not passed my word to Kaikeyi that I would go to the forest? Should I not keep it? You need not grieve in the slightest at the imaginary difficulties and dangers of our forest life. Our days will pass away all merrily in the wood world, teeming with beasts and birds of infinite variety. A father is the God of gods, so I regard you as my highest deity and desire to obey your behests. You are sure to see me here at the end of 14 years, so it is extremely untoward that you should grieve over me now. The whole world looks up to you in supreme confidence to wipe away its tears and infuse courage into its heart to bear up under woes and calamities. And whom shall it turn to if you give way to sorrow and despair? This town, this fair city of Ayodhya do I renounce, give it all to Bharata. This broad realm, this Koshala do I renounce, let it be Bharata's. This earth and all it contains do I renounce, let Bharata hold sway over it. This very moment I shall depart hence for the woods, to lead there a happy life and keep my plighted word ever true. You will not see me here until the promise is redeemed. This earth with its mountains, rivers, corn, wealth, and people, let Bharata rule happily over it. There is not in my heart even the slightest suspicion of any hankering for it. I should see that your word to Queen Kaikeyi is well kept. My heart turns away from selfish comfort or unparalleled power and pomp. It ever yearns to discharge the Dharma so highly lauded by the great, that is the fulfillment of a father's promise. Hence, it is absolutely unreasonable for you to grieve on my account. What shall it profit me, this kingdom, its power or pleasures, or Sita, or my life itself, if through me your plighted word is not kept? Well, your promise shall ever be accomplished. You need not even dream that my life in the forest will know any sorrow or privation. Sweet fruits and roots shall be my diet. Mountains, rivers, and lakes will delight me untiringly and enable me to pass days of joy in the variegated forests. Thus did Rama seek to console the broken heart of his father, who essayed to clasp his darling son to his heart and fainted away from sheer grief. His wives were horrified at the sight and lifted their voices aloud in wailings and lamentations. Even Sumantra, the old and the staid, wept aloud and fainted away, so mighty was that wave of sorrow. The whole palace resounded with groans, wails, moans, and laments. But Kaikeyi's iron heart was never touched, and her face lost nothing of its increasing brightness and joy. Mangalam Koshalendraya Mahaniya Gunapti Chakravarti Dhanurjaya Sarvabhaumaya Mangalam.